Alien princess tries human breeding for the first time must watch. The galaxy was a vast, mysterious place, home to hundreds of different species. Among them, the xyroliths were a powerful and highly advanced race, known for their vast intellect and cold, calculated way of life. Their civilization had spread across numerous planets, creating a network of worlds united under their rule. They were incredibly advanced in science, especially biology. Over centuries, they had perfected the genetics of their people, ensuring they were a race of unmatched superiority. But now, the xyroliths were facing a problem. Despite their advanced science and technology, their genetics were stagnating. The royal family, in particular, was struggling. Princess Illyria, the heir to the throne, was aware of this looming crisis. She had spent years studying the problem. The xyroliths had perfected their bloodlines over centuries, but their genetic pool was becoming too small. They were unable to produce the genetic diversity needed to ensure the survival of their species for much longer. Illyria was determined to solve this problem. As the heir to the throne, the responsibility fell on her to find a solution that could secure the future of her people. She spent countless hours in the royal laboratories, researching other species in the galaxy, looking for a way to introduce new genetic material into the royal bloodline. One species intrigued her more than the others: humans. Humans were a relatively young species by galactic standards. Their technology was far behind the xyroliths, but there was something unique about them. Despite their limited technology, humans had an incredible level of genetic diversity. Their ability to adapt and survive in the most extreme environments fascinated Illyria. She had learned that humans were resilient, capable of thriving even in the harshest conditions. And most importantly, their genetic makeup held the potential to bring a new spark to the stagnating xyrolith bloodline. Illyria decided that a collaboration with humans was the only way forward. It was a decision that would change the future of both her people and humanity. Her mission was clear: travel to Earth, find a human volunteer, and conduct an unprecedented experiment. She needed to combine her royal bloodline with human genetics. Only then would the xyroliths be able to produce offspring with the genetic diversity necessary to secure their future. The journey to Earth took several weeks. Illyria traveled aboard her sleek starship, a marvel of xyrolith engineering. The ship glided through space, its advanced systems allowing it to traverse vast distances in the blink of an eye. The princess had always felt a sense of awe as she gazed out at the stars. The vastness of space was both beautiful and intimidating. But she knew her mission was more important than anything else. The survival of her people depended on it. When she arrived at Earth, Illyria was cautious. The human race was unpredictable. They had their own ways of life, their own history, and their own ideas about the universe. Illyria was not sure how they would react to her presence or to her request, but she was determined to succeed. She made contact with Earth leaders, explaining her mission. At first, they were suspicious. An alien princess claiming to represent a superior race, asking for permission to conduct a genetic experiment on humans. It was a lot to take in. But Illyria was calm, diplomatic, and persuasive. She assured them that her intentions were peaceful and that this collaboration could benefit both species. The experiment would only take a small sample of human genetics and would not harm anyone. In fact, Illyria argued, it could pave the way for a new era of cooperation between their worlds. After much debate, Earth's leaders reluctantly agreed. Illyria was granted permission to proceed with her plan. The next step was to find the right human volunteer. Commander James Ward was a highly respected officer in the Earth Defense Forces. He was a soldier and a scientist, known for his sharp mind and impressive physical abilities. Ward was selected for the experiment, as his genetic makeup was considered ideal for the procedure. He was strong, healthy, and had a natural curiosity that would make him an ideal candidate to work with Illyria. Ward was skeptical at first. The idea of working with an alien species was a daunting one, and the details of the experiment were vague. But Illyria's calm demeanor and logical reasoning convinced him to agree. He understood that the experiment could have far-reaching implications for humanity and the galaxy as a whole. It was a chance to be part of something greater, something historic. When Ward met Princess Illyria for the first time, he was struck by her beauty and presence. She was tall and graceful, with an air of authority that was impossible to ignore. Her silver hair shimmered in the light of her ship's control room, and her piercing blue eyes seemed to see straight through him. There was something captivating about her, something that made Ward feel both awe and uncertainty. "Commander Ward," Illyria greeted him, her voice calm and steady. "Thank you for agreeing to help with this mission. Your cooperation is crucial to the success of the experiment." Ward nodded, unsure of how to respond. "I'm not sure what to expect, Your Highness, but I'm willing to do what's necessary." Illyria smiled faintly. "I understand. This is an unprecedented undertaking, but I believe we can accomplish something extraordinary together." They spent the following days discussing the details of the experiment. Illyria explained the process to Ward, showing him the sophisticated equipment her people had developed to extract genetic samples and combine them with xylith DNA. The procedure was safe, she assured him, and would require only a small amount of his genetic material. She also explained the long-term goal, to create offspring with genetic diversity that could help revitalize the xylith race. Ward listened carefully, trying to wrap his head around the idea of mixing human and xylith genetics. It sounded like science fiction, but he had seen enough strange things in his life to know that anything was possible. As the days passed, Ward and Illyria began to develop a rapport. She was highly intelligent and shared Ward's love for knowledge. They spent hours discussing biology, technology, and the future of their species. Illyria was fascinated by human creativity and resourcefulness, while Ward was impressed by the xylith's level of understanding and their ability to manipulate genetics on a level humanity had only dreamed of. Despite the scientific nature of their partnership, Ward couldn't help but feel a growing sense of respect for Illyria. She was more than just a princess. She was a leader, burdened with the weight of her people's survival. And yet, she didn't let that burden crush her. Instead, she used it to drive her forward, to find a solution that could change the future. Ward, too, felt the pressure of their mission. As the days drew closer to the start of the experiment, he found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about the universe. Was this really the right path for humanity? What would the consequences be if things went wrong? But there was no turning back now. The experiment was set to begin, and the fate of both their species rested on the outcome. As the days passed, Princess Illyria and Commander Ward found themselves in a constant state of preparation. The grand laboratory aboard Illyria's ship had become their base of operations, filled with advanced xylith technology designed for genetic research. Ward, though initially overwhelmed by the complex machinery, was determined to help, and the princess was patient, guiding him through every step of the process. At first, the two kept their conversations strictly professional, focusing on the science behind their task. Ward's mind, sharp and analytical, quickly picked up on the intricacies of the xylith systems. He marveled at the way the alien technology effortlessly combined biology and artificial intelligence. Despite his skepticism, Ward could not deny the brilliance of Illyria's people. The xyliths had a deep understanding of genetics, far surpassing anything humans had achieved. Yet, Illyria's concerns about their stagnation were real, and Ward began to see the necessity of their mission. Each day, as they worked together, Ward grew more impressed by Illyria's calm and determined nature. She wasn't just the heir to a vast empire. She was a leader who carried the weight of her people's future on her shoulders. In her, Ward saw a drive and intelligence that made him question the limits of human potential. For her part, Illyria found Ward's sharp mind and natural curiosity refreshing. He asked questions that no one else had ever thought to ask, and his ability to adapt to new concepts was remarkable. She had expected the human to be more resistant to the alien technology, but instead, he was eager to understand it. And more than that, Ward's respect for her species and the work she was doing was evident. It made Illyria feel less isolated in her mission. Though the Xyroliths were an advanced race, Illyria had never felt the same sense of partnership she found in Ward. As the day of the experiment approached, the tension in the air grew thick. Illyria and Ward had spent long hours reviewing the procedure, double-checking their plans. Illyria explained the details of the genetic procedure again, but this time, Ward asked a question that made her pause. "Princess," he said one evening, "what if the experiment doesn't go as planned? What if the combination of our genetics doesn't work? What if we make something we can't control?" Illyria's gaze softened, though she remained composed. She had thought about this question countless times. She had spent years developing the procedure and had no doubt it would succeed, but she knew the risks were real. There were so many unknowns and the stakes were higher than either of them had ever faced before. "Commander," Illyria replied, her voice steady, "the Xyroliths have perfected their genetics over centuries, but perfection has its limits. Our species is stagnating. We can no longer produce the diversity we need to survive. That is why I believe the experiment will succeed. The human genetic code is unlike anything we've encountered. I believe it holds the key to securing our future." Ward nodded, though he wasn't entirely convinced. There was a part of him that understood Illyria's desperation, but the human part of him couldn't help but feel uneasy. There was so much that could go wrong, and the consequences of failure were unimaginable. The Xyroliths were powerful, but if their experiment created something uncontrollable, the results could be catastrophic. Yet, Ward knew that the future of both species rested on their success. His commitment to the mission grew stronger with each passing day, though doubts still lingered in the back of his mind. The day of the experiment arrived, and both Illyria and Ward were ready. The laboratory was buzzing with activity as the final preparations were made. Ward stood beside Illyria, both of them in their specialized suits, designed to ensure the safety of their genetic samples. The equipment was sophisticated, designed to take a tiny sample of Ward's DNA, combine it with Illyria's royal bloodline, and then analyze the results. Illyria took a deep breath as she watched the data stream across the large monitors. "This is it," she said quietly. "There is no turning back now." Ward gave her a small smile, though his nerves were evident. "I know, but whatever happens, we're in this together." For the first time, Illyria felt a sense of reassurance in those words. Though she was the one leading the mission, Ward had become her partner in this endeavor. He had no idea how much that meant to her. In her life, she had always been surrounded by advisors and experts, but no one had ever truly understood the weight of the decision she was about to make, except Ward. With a nod from Illyria, the experiment began. The procedure started smoothly. Ward's DNA was carefully extracted, and the Xyrolith technology worked efficiently to combine it with Illyria's genetic material. Ward stood by, watching the intricate process unfold. The princess stood by the control panels, adjusting settings and analyzing the data as it came in. For a while, everything seemed to go according to plan. However, as the final stages of the experiment approached, something unexpected happened. A warning light blinked on one of the control panels, followed by a series of beeping sounds. Illyria quickly moved to the monitor, her eyes scanning the data. "Commander," she said, her voice tinged with concern, "there's an anomaly. The genetic combination is. It's stabilizing faster than expected." Ward's heart skipped a beat. Is that good or bad? Illyria didn't answer immediately. She was too focused on the data to explain. Her fingers flew over the controls as she tried to understand what was happening. I'm not sure, she admitted. This wasn't anticipated. The hybrid genetics should take longer to stabilize. As the tension in the room mounted, Illyria and Ward exchanged a glance. Both of them were on edge, waiting to see how the situation would unfold. For what seemed like hours, they watched the readings on the monitors. The process was speeding up rapidly, and the genetic sample was beginning to form. It wasn't just a slow combination of two different species anymore. The DNA was evolving at an accelerated rate, adapting in ways neither Illyria nor Ward had predicted. This isn't just a hybrid, Illyria murmured, her voice full of awe. It's something else. Ward watched the data intently, his mind racing. Something else? What does that mean? Illyria's eyes widened as the implications of what was happening started to dawn on her. The human DNA is influencing the process more than I thought. This hybrid, it's evolving in a way that could change everything. For a moment, they were both silent, staring at the data as it continued to shift and transform. The experiment had gone beyond what they had expected, and now it seemed that the result was something neither species could have predicted. As the experiment concluded, the room fell into a heavy silence. Illyria stood motionless, processing what had just occurred. Ward, too, was stunned, unable to grasp the full meaning of the data they had just collected. Illyria, Ward finally said, his voice shaky. What did we just do? Illyria turned to him, her face pale. I don't know, she replied softly, but I think we've just opened a door to something we can't control. The future of both species, it seemed, was now uncertain. The results of the experiment had far exceeded anything Princess Illyria or Commander Ward could have anticipated. What was meant to be a simple genetic procedure had evolved into something entirely different. As the final stages concluded, the hybrid sample they had created was no longer just a combination of their DNA. It was something new, something that seemed to defy the very laws of biology. For several long moments, neither Illyria nor Ward could speak. The data streams flickered across the control panel, showing rapid changes in the genetic structure. The hybrid organism was not just stabilizing, it was adapting, growing stronger in ways that were both thrilling and terrifying. What? What is this? Ward whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Illyria's fingers hovered over the control panels, but she hesitated. The readings were clear, yet they didn't make sense. This wasn't supposed to happen, she muttered under her breath, more to herself than to Ward. The human genes, they've triggered a transformation. The genetic material, it's evolving, not just adapting. It's changing in ways I've never seen before. Ward took a step forward, his gaze still locked on the data. Is this good or bad? Illyria shook her head. I don't know, but I think we've created something beyond what we imagined. The process is accelerating far faster than expected. The hybrid DNA was not just an amalgamation of two species. It was becoming something else entirely, something that neither the xyliths nor humans could have predicted. The readings showed rapid growth and adaptation, as if the hybrid was learning, evolving at an unprecedented rate. Hours later, Illyria and Ward stood in the sterile laboratory, both exhausted from the intense monitoring of the situation. Illyria had spent the last few hours running simulations, analyzing every piece of data she could, but nothing seemed to explain what had gone wrong. The hybrid organism was thriving, more than thriving, it was evolving with astonishing speed. Ward sat at a nearby table, his hands folded tightly together. You said this was a controlled experiment, he said quietly, trying to process the enormity of what was happening. So, what happens now? Illyria glanced over at him, her expression unreadable. It's no longer about control, she said softly. The hybrid is beyond our control. The genetics are fusing, evolving in unpredictable ways. A long silence stretched between them. Ward could feel the weight of her words. The xyroliths had always prided themselves on their control, on their ability to manipulate everything to perfection. But now, they had created something that no one, not even Illyria, could understand fully. "We need to keep studying this," Illyria said, after a moment. "I need more time to analyze the data. We can't just stop now," Ward nodded. "But what if we can't fix it? What if we've gone too far?" Illyria turned back to the control panel, her fingers once again moving swiftly over the keys. She had to find a way to make sense of the rapid changes. There had to be an answer. There had to be a way to understand this new life they had created. She refused to believe that all their work had been in vain. The following days were filled with intense research. Illyria and Ward were inseparable, working side by side in the laboratory. They ran countless tests, trying to understand the hybrid organism's capabilities. As they worked, they realized that the hybrid was not only evolving biologically, but also developing an unusual intelligence. It could process information quickly, adapt to different environments, and even show signs of problem-solving. In a way, it was learning at an alarming rate. Illyria had initially feared the hybrid might be dangerous, but as she spent more time studying it, she began to feel a sense of wonder. The hybrid's rapid adaptation was something that even the xyroliths had never been able to achieve. Its biology was a perfect blend of human resilience and xyrolith sophistication, a fusion that created a being capable of surviving and thriving in a way neither species could have predicted. One evening, after another long day of research, Ward sat across from Illyria at the table, his eyes tired but alert. It's amazing," he said slowly. "I never thought I'd see anything like this. I always thought humans were at the mercy of the universe, struggling to survive. But this is something else. It's as if the hybrid is showing us how much more we're capable of." Illyria studied him, her gaze thoughtful. "I don't think it's just about humans. The hybrid is showing us that the key to survival isn't perfection or control. It's adaptability, the ability to learn, to grow, to evolve in response to the world around you." Ward nodded slowly. "That's what we're missing, isn't it? The xyroliths have everything, but they're stuck in their ways. They don't know how to change, how to adapt, and that's where we come in. Maybe we're the key to saving both our species." Illyria didn't say anything right away. She was deep in thought, considering Ward's words. The hybrid was the product of their two worlds, and it was clear that its unique qualities had the potential to bring about change, not just for the xyroliths or humanity, but for the entire galaxy. But with this realization came a new set of challenges. The xyroliths, while advanced, were a proud and stubborn people. Illyria's decision to pursue this experiment had already caused tension among the royal family and the council. Now, as they continued to study the hybrid, they were certain to face even greater opposition. The very idea of allowing an unpredictable, evolving species to have a place in their society would be met with resistance, if not outright hostility. And yet, Illyria was resolved. She knew the hybrid represented something far greater than just the future of the xyroliths. It was the key to something new, a future where both species could thrive, not in perfect harmony, but in cooperation, where humanity's ability to adapt would complement the xyrolith's advanced knowledge. One evening, as Illyria and Ward sat in the lab reviewing the latest data, a sudden alarm blared through the ship. The emergency lights flickered, casting an eerie red glow across the laboratory. "What's happening?" Ward asked, jumping to his feet. Illyria quickly accessed the control panel, her eyes scanning the alerts. "It's the Council," she said, her voice tight with tension. "They've discovered what we've done. They're sending a fleet to Earth to stop the experiment." Ward's heart raced. "We've been discovered. What are we going to do?" Illyria's mind raced as she considered their options. The Council would never allow the hybrid to exist. Its very existence challenged everything they believed in. But she couldn't let them destroy the chance for a new future, a future where both species could thrive. "We have no choice," Illyria said, her voice firm. "We have to protect the hybrid, and we need to make sure the Council doesn't destroy what we've started. If we don't stop them, everything we've worked for will be lost." Ward nodded. "Then we fight, together." Illyria met his gaze, her expression one of fierce determination. Yes, together. The tension had reached its breaking point. After days of monitoring the hybrid's growth and development, Princess Illyria and Commander Ward had found themselves not only at the mercy of the unpredictable results of the experiment, but also caught in a war of survival against their own people. The Xyrolith Council had learned of their actions and was already on its way to Earth, ready to take any necessary steps to destroy the hybrid and prevent the new threat from challenging the status quo. Illyria stood in the command center of her ship, her hands gripping the console as the alarms blared once more. The Xyrolith fleet was approaching at incredible speed, their advanced technology outmatching anything humans had developed. Time was running out and there was no way to hide the hybrid now. The experiment could not be undone. "They're coming," Illyria said quietly, her voice filled with resolve. "The Council will not let this stand. They will destroy the hybrid before it can even begin to grow." Ward stood beside her, his jaw set with determination. He knew what had to be done. This was no longer just a scientific experiment, it was a battle for the future. He turned to Illyria, his eyes serious. "We can't let them destroy what we've started," he said firmly. "We've seen the potential of the hybrid. It can bring change to both of our worlds. We have to protect it, no matter the cost." Illyria nodded. She had known this moment would come. The Council would never accept the hybrid. Its power and unpredictability threatened everything they had built. But she also understood something important. The future of both the Xyroliths and humans depended on their success. They could not let fear stop them from trying. "The hybrid is the future," Illyria said, her voice strong. "But we need allies. The Xyroliths won't listen to reason. We'll need to call on Earth's leaders and form a united front." Ward agreed. "We'll need to rally humanity. If they're going to fight for the hybrid's survival, they need to know the truth. The Council has kept humanity in the dark for too long. It's time they understood what's at stake." The next few hours were a blur of action. Illyria and Ward worked tirelessly, coordinating with Earth's leaders to form a defense strategy. News of the incoming Xyrolith fleet spread quickly, and humanity's leaders, though initially reluctant, began to understand the urgency of the situation. The hybrid was no longer just a scientific curiosity. It was a symbol of hope for the future of both species. As the Xyrolith fleet entered Earth's orbit, Illyria stood on the bridge of her ship, her hands clasped behind her back, staring out at the stars. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. If the Xyroliths succeeded in destroying the hybrid, everything they had worked for would be lost. But if they managed to protect it, if they could show the galaxy the potential of cooperation between humans and Xyroliths, they could change the course of history. Ward joined her, his face set with determination. "Are you ready?" he asked. Illyria turned to him, her gaze steady. "I don't have a choice. Neither of us does." They were about to face a war that neither of them had expected, one that would determine the future of both their species. The Xyrolith Council believed in order and control, but what they had overlooked was that the future wasn't about perfection. It was about adaptability and cooperation. And humanity, with all its flaws, had an incredible ability to do both. The battle began as the Xyrolith fleet descended upon Earth. The advanced alien ships were unlike anything humanity had seen before, sleek, powerful, and armed with weapons capable of obliterating entire cities. But Earth was ready. Thanks to Illyria's alliance with Earth's military, they had developed a defense strategy that combined human ingenuity with the best technology the xyliths had to offer. The hybrid, though still growing and developing, was proving to be a symbol of unity, its existence now representing a partnership between the two species. Ward led the charge, coordinating with Earth's forces as they engaged the Xyrolith fleet. The battle was fierce. The Xyrolith's ships were faster and more advanced, but humanity's ingenuity and quick thinking kept them in the fight. For every blow the Xyroliths landed, humanity struck back with everything they had. On the ground, Illyria worked alongside human commanders to ensure the safety of the hybrid. It was being kept in a secure facility, its growth and development continuing at a rapid pace. But as the conflict intensified, Illyria knew they couldn't protect the hybrid forever. It needed to be part of the larger fight. Its unique genetics could turn the tide of battle. "We need to get the hybrid to the front lines," Illyria said urgently to Ward. "If it's going to make a difference, it has to be part of the war." Ward hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I'll take care of it. We'll make sure it's safe." As the war raged on, the hybrid's evolution continued. Its intelligence had surpassed even Illyria's expectations, and it was beginning to display powers that neither Xyroliths nor humans had anticipated. The hybrid's adaptability allowed it to learn from every battle, growing stronger and more capable with each passing hour. It was no longer just a combination of human and Xyrolith DNA. It was a force in its own right, capable of changing the course of the war. By the time the Xyroliths realized what had happened, it was too late. The hybrid's abilities had turned the tide in humanity's favor. It had learned to harness the combined strengths of both species, Xyrolith technology and human resilience, and had become a formidable weapon in its own right. The Xyrolith fleet, once so confident in their superiority, was now being overwhelmed by the very thing they had sought to destroy. In a final desperate move, the Xyrolith Council attempted to send a fleet of reinforcements to Earth, but they were met with an unexpected force. The hybrid, alongside Illyria and Ward, led a counterattack, using their newfound abilities to disable the Xyrolith ships and bring the conflict to an end. It was a brutal, decisive battle, but the result was clear. Humanity and the hybrid had won. As the smoke cleared and the remnants of the Xyrolith fleet retreated, Illyria stood by Ward, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The war was over and they had won, not just for themselves but for the future of both species. "We did it," Illyria said softly, her voice filled with awe. Ward nodded, his face tired but satisfied. "Together, we proved that we can adapt, we can grow, and we can work together to create something better." Illyria turned to him, her expression resolute. "The hybrid is just the beginning. We've opened the door to a new future. A future where both humans and Xyroliths can thrive together." The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Illyria knew that the future of both their species would never be the same. The hybrid had changed everything. It had shown them the power of cooperation and adaptability, the key to surviving in a universe full of unknowns. As they looked toward the future, Illyria and Ward knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but they were ready. Together, they had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity and the Xyroliths could create something greater than themselves. And this was only the beginning.